It's time for Watts on Wealth Radio with Barry Watts and your host, Ralph Hipp.
Today's higher interest rates won't last forever. What money moves have you made to capitalize on those? Our main retirement designer for the WealthCare Corporation, Barry Watts, has some ideas helping you manage your retirement savings while the interest rates are elevated. Thanks a lot for joining us for this Sunday morning's Watts on Wealth radio show. I'm your host, Ralph Hipp. Glad to have you spend some time with us for the next hour. Let's give some hello time to Barry Watts. And Barry, how are you?
Well, I'm doing fine, Ralph. It's the middle of summer, and I'm ready to start thinking about what the second half of the year looks like. And I do have to confess to you, I feel just a little bit grumpy.
Why are you grumpy today?
Well, the governor recently signed a $50 billion budget. Now, that's a lot of money in most people's world, certainly is a lot in my world. And I think there were some mistakes in how the governor and the legislature approached this, and I'm just fussing about it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. Now, Governor Parson, he's from just up the road in Bolivar, isn't that right? Could you go up and have a visit with him? Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He is. Here's what they did. I think they're foolishly spending the citizens' money. You know, around the Capitol, sometimes they do refer to him as Tax Hike Mike, even though he's a Republican. And, he's a Republican and a farmer. I try to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's a Republican, a farmer, and a Baptist, and a good one, I think. I try to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I just don't agree with how they're handling the money. And here's why. One of the things that was in the budget was they're going to widen I-44 here in Springfield to 6 lanes. Oh, I think that's good. I think we need that.
You like that?
And I think that's the work that government should be doing. But then there's some other things. For example, they're giving $10 million in taxpayer funds to the Art Museum, $5 million in taxpayer funds to the Little Theater. They're going to spend $3.5 million renovating Hammond's Field and putting walking paths around it. Now, I'm in favor of art, and I'm in favor of theater. And I'm in favor of baseball. I was just at Hammond's watching baseball last Thursday evening. But, I'm not sure we ought to be spending taxpayer money to do that. In fact, I think the people who like art should be supporting art, and the people who like theater and baseball should be giving money to support theater and baseball.
Right.
And if government would quit spending on those projects, then government could lower taxes and return that money back to the lowest level possible, the citizens whose pockets were vacuumed out to get that money. And then the citizens would have more resources to fund the things that they're interested in. So that's Barry's view of how things should be run politically and economically when it comes to taxes. That's my philosophical approach. And it tells you a little bit about why I'm grumpy because of what the government is doing today.
Let's see a show of hands. We can't do that on the radio. Show of hands, though, anyway. How many of you think that Barry Watts should run for governor? See a show of hands here with what he just said. I can't see it, Barry.
Yeah, well, we all know that's not going to happen.
Not going to, because you love what you do with the WealthCare Corporation. Let me give you, here's the number for Barry to call him and talk to him. 417-200-3500 in Springfield. 417 all around Ozarks land, 200-3500. And just a quick mention, and we'll get to our conversation here. I've been watching the television commercials. And by the way, Barry and I are on television on KY3, so we're a whole show, though. But I've seen so many commercials. How many people are running for governor in Missouri this year? I've seen, about a half dozen so far?
Well, I know like 3 on the Republican side, and I think there may be a couple of more who just don't have enough money to get any advertising out.
Okay.
And then I know of at least 2 on the Democrat side, one from Springfield, Sam Hamra, who is a part of the Wendy's franchise.
Right. They show the Wendy's on the commercial. Or Mike, it's Mike Hamra?
Yeah, his name is Mike, not Sam. Mike. Sam is his dad.
Sam's the dad.
So he's running on the Democrat side. I'm pretty sure he'll be the nominee. His commercials probably look really good, and of course he can afford to buy them because the family has done very well over the years. So that's what the gubernatorial race is shaping up to look like right now. Kind of the local favored son to some degree. Of course, is the younger Ashcroft, who currently serves as Secretary of State. My sense is that he's not going to get it done. I think the odds-on favorite at the moment happens to be Mike Kehoe. And I have mixed emotions about that. I've met Mike. I've talked to him. I like him. Seems like a decent fellow. But, if you want to get something done right, you have to do it yourself. And that's one thing I'm not going to do. So I'll just have to be happy with whatever the voters decide.
We will wait for that. August, the primary coming up real soon here, the November election. And the economy is such a huge part of all this. Let's get back to money and what the platform you're running on, Barry. Let's start with what's happening with interest rates as we're in the second half of the year. Inflation is hanging in there, maybe lessening or cooling a little bit. We are expected to see one rate hike cut from the Fed later this year. In getting our discussion going on money, Barry, what's your take on the interest rates we have right now?
Well, I think, Ralph, interest rates make fools out of people who just don't know any better. For example, 6 months ago, we were buying 5-year government bonds paying over 6%. And 6 months ago, a lot of people, including those who are listening to our show, were getting, 5.5% or so on CDs down at the local bank. But those CDs were usually for 11 months or 13 months. I don't know where they come up with those odd numbers, but they're shorter term CDs. So when they turn around and mature and they go to reinvest those CDs, well, if interest rates are trending downward, they will be reinvesting them at lower rates. And so the data I'm seeing says that if we get 1 or 2 interest rate cuts, that will be somewhere maybe in the neighborhood of 4% in interest about a year from now. But if we get aggressive rate cuts, like 6 or 7 in the next year, and certainly if the Fed gets the notion that we have calmed inflation, tamed it, well, I think half a dozen rate cuts is quite possible. Well, then we could see 2% interest within 18 months. Now, what is the implication for you? Well, it's simple this. You should have bought a longer term interest rate and locked it in while you could have. You should have purchased maybe one of those 5-year kind of bonds that's paying 6%. So you'd had that good rate for that period of time instead of just playing the every 12-month rate game. And people tend to buy only shorter term CDs. And I think that's a terrible mistake.
And what about the longer term bonds, Barry? Why aren't people buying more of those?
Well, because we're not conditioned to. We were conditioned by our grandpa back in the 1970s to buy 12-month CDs. That's what we watched mom and dad do. It's what we watched grandma and grandpa do. And so we go out and we just, I've got clients who tell me all about their chasing CD rates all over town. And what they're looking for is trying to gain 1/10 of a point by driving across town on an 11-month CD. Oh, my goodness, what a waste of time. Usually those are people who don't know about brokered CDs or bonds. And I said there were clients. They're usually prospects. They're people who are coming to see us, and we're educating them on what is possible. But there are interest rates that are every bit what you can get around town and generally better by as much as 0.5% that you could purchase actually through your local brokerage account. That's the stuff that the banks buy, actually. And so the banks approach people like us, and they reach out and buy government bonds to back up their portfolios when you deposit money in the bank. So if you deposit money in the bank and they pay you 4, well, then they turn around and take that same money and they deposit in an account with us and earn 5, and they make the 1% spread. Well, I say kick the middleman out and just make that interest yourself. So what I'd recommend you do is call your broker, call your investment person, whoever you've got that deals with all that stuff, and tell them you're looking for better interest rates. If you don't have anyone to call me. My team and I will educate you on how interest rates work and how to buy FDIC-insured CDs and government bonds, often at higher rates than the local bank offers you.
There you go. So cut out the middleman. And did you get all that, folks? And have a conversation with Barry when you listen to the show, and we're glad you are. And say, I need to talk with Barry about what he just said there. I need to have a discussion that relates to me. So that number is 417-200-3500 for the WealthCare Corporation. If we were to put it in terms of buckets, Barry, what are the strategies in our buckets to consider while the interest rates are still a little bit higher?
Well, I think, Ralph, while interest rates are high, here's how you should be setting up your money to get the income you need. Whatever income you're going to need in the next 12 months should be in your now bucket. And about half of that money, 6 months worth, we leave in cash. That's going to be paying you the next 6 months. And the other half of that money in the now bucket, we're going to put into a 6-month treasury and get whatever the best rate we can get on a 6-month treasury might be. And at the moment, that might be somewhere in the neighborhood of 3% or something like that. Then you should have a soon bucket. Now, let me tell you what's in the soon bucket. The soon bucket has got year 2, year 3, year 4. It's got money in there for those following years that are coming. And so if I had 3 years worth of money in a soon bucket, 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, well, I would ladder it out a third to each of those time frames, with each time frame getting a slightly higher interest rate. So every year I've got money coming due that can be moved over into my now bucket, and from which I can then spend as the income comes out of my account and into my checking account every year. So if you've got 3 buckets, the first one's the now, the second one's the soon to cover years 2 up to year 5. Anything over 5 years, I would have that invested for long-term growth, mostly in equities. But that's the part of your portfolio that's really your investment account. And the other is just a place where you're storing money, getting ready to spend it either this year or in the years that follow.
Sounds pretty smart, Barry. So with our now bucket, and talk to me why it's so important to have some liquid cash liquidity with some of our retirement savings to at least be able to get our hands on some of that right now in the now bucket.
The answer is the reason it's important to have liquidity is because you might need the money. I mean, I always like to say your son-in-law, your no good son-in-law may get arrested and go to jail, and you'll need to bail him out. So there's one of the things that you might
That's
do
one
with
thing.
The money. Yeah, I know you may love your son-in-law. I love my son-in-law. I don't need to keep any cash around to bail him out. I'm not worried about that in the least. But my point is, things suddenly come up. I always say the air conditioning unit might go out, or the transmission might fall out of your car. Those are things that you need liquidity for, and we recommend that people keep about 6 months worth of living expense. So if you're living on $60,000 a year, you ought to have about $30,000 just sitting in cash over in a money market account. Right now, your money market account ought to be paying you better than 5%. Mine is. And that's money that you could access in the event of an emergency. And then it's important to have some other liquidity in your accounts, but it doesn't have to be that liquid, not like cash to spend tomorrow. But you got to have money coming due. But most of your money, you're perfectly safe to tie up for longer periods of time. You know, I mentioned 5 years and people go, oh my, I'd never tie my money up for 5 years. Wait a minute. Are you going to spend it all in 1 year? No, some of that money you won't have touched for 10 years or 15 years. Don't you agree? Well, then why would it not be okay to tie some of that money up for longer periods of time? And we know how to do that, how to build the schedule for that, so that you've always got money coming due to pay the bills when the bills come due. That's what we do when we build income portfolios.
And how many times, friends, as you're listening to our show, Barry and I have talked about having your money last as long as you do live to be 100. We talk about it all the time. So 5 years is nothing if we have a retirement that could be 20 to 30 years. Barry, time for a break here. Barry's phone number to call him. You can text the word visit or leave a message today. Call right away during the week. 417-200-3500 to reach Barry Watts and the team at the WealthCare Corporation. Barry, if this were a football game, football will be here before you know it. That's the end of the first quarter, folks. We have our second quarter coming up. More of the show with Barry Watts, and this is Ralph Hipp on Watts on Wealth, the radio show. We will return right after this.
Having trouble planning your retirement? Planning doesn't have to be complicated. Barry Watts can help you simplify it with his Retirement Toolkit. In it, you'll find a copy of his Retirement Income Planning Booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your toolkit, text KIT, that's K-I-T, to 417-200-3500. That's KIT, K-I-T, to 417-200-3500.
According to the U.S. debt clock, in the time you hear this commercial, our nation's debt will go up by $1.5 million. That's more than $2 billion a day. Right now, our debt is over $31 trillion and climbing fast. The question is, how do we pay it off? One of the most likely answers is increasing taxes. Now think about your retirement accounts. Do you want to pay taxes on some of that money now when rates are historically low, or later when rates are potentially higher? Whether you should pay taxes now or in retirement depends on a lot of things. Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare know what to look for. Barry can help you create a plan so your retirement is as tax efficient as possible. Call 417-200-3500 to set up a tax strategy session with Barry Watts and the WealthCare team. That's 417-200-3500. When taxes go up, will you be ready? Call now, 417-200-3500.
Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Are you worried about where your money will go in retirement? No need to worry. Barry Watts is here to help you plan for your retirement future. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to set up a meeting with Barry Watts to see what he can do for you. Again, that's text visit to 417-200-3500 today.
Welcome back in, and this is Ralph Hipp along with the amazing J. Barry Watts, the main retirement money designer at the WealthCare Corporation. Barry, before we get back to what we were talking about, let's talk about your book. It just came out in the last few weeks, and how can we get a copy of your book and have some summertime reading about money and saving it the Barry way?
Well, Ralph, my book is called Watts on Wealth. It's a pretty easy read, about 140 pages. We talk about all the different things that people usually are asking about when it comes to thinking about retirement. We talk about Social Security and long-term care. We talk about how to protect your principal. We talk about how to develop your income plan. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty much all covered in the book. In fact, you and I could probably just read chapters of the book on the show here, and we'd be touching on the things that might be helpful. Now, there's
almost
a couple
all
of ways.
Of them, yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways you can get the book. You can go to Amazon.com and just look up Watts on Wealth and buy the book. And, I hope you will, because I get paid some little pittance of something when you do that. But I'm going to make you a better deal than that. If you will actually text the word book today, I will send you a copy of the book free. And if you're real sweet, I might even autograph it for you. All you got to do is text the word book to 417-200-3500, BOOK, to 417-200-3500, and we'll be glad to mail out a brand new copy of my brand new book to you. This time next week, you'll have it in your hands.
That'd be super. You'll love reading it. Barry, that gives me the idea when you said, let's just talk about the book. Have you had an audiobook narrator? Do you want me to just narrate your book for our folks?
We hadn't talked about that, but that really would be a good idea.
I'd love to narrate your book, and they could listen to our show and listen to Ralph going on and on and on and on, but at least it's good stuff. So,
I was thinking about how creatively we could do that. What if we narrated the book together, and you read a paragraph and I read a paragraph?
Oh, yeah.
You read a paragraph and I read a paragraph.
I like that.
We'd kind of be like, on KY3, the evening anchors, Steve Grant and Lisa Richardson. Well, her name's Lisa Rose now. And they, one of them reads a few lines and the next one.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
We go back and forth. Your specialty as a news guy.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a very good idea for narrating a book. So we're going to let you do the book narration, but I wrote that down, so I'm going to get back to that.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to do that. I like the idea of us sharing it, but this radio show is a lot more fun. But anyway, the book is called Watts on Wealth, and so is the radio show. Let's get back to that part of it, and Barry and I going back and forth here. And like on the news, it's all marked. Like Ralph has a question, Barry has an answer. Let's get back to it. And Barry, let's talk about the importance of balancing liquidity and growth and safety with our retirement savings. That's my next question for you.
Well, I totally disagree with your question, Ralph, because you said balancing.
Balancing?
And if you think about it, you probably don't need as much money in liquid dollars as you need in growth dollars for the future. The idea of balancing would mean equal amounts in all of those. Instead, I think we want as much as possible in our later bucket to grow for the future. But we do need to have our now bucket filled with 12 months worth of income if we're going to take income in the next 12 months. And our soon bucket needs to be filled for the next 4 years after that of rolling income. And so if you do it that way, still most of your money is going to wind up out in the later bucket, but you've got 5 years that's kind of protected from any sort of market volatility. And that allows you time to recover and to not be worried if the markets should throw a petulant fit. At any point, you can say, well, I've got 5 years worth of my money already set aside. We'll let the markets kind of settle down and recover. So that's the way I would do it if it were all up to me. A portion of that money that you've got out in the later bucket, you're going to want it still to be protected. We call that protected principal. And that's money that when the stock market goes negative, you can't lose any of your principal. Usually big banks or insurance companies are who issue that kind of money. The big banks issue what are called structured notes. Insurance companies issue annuities. They're backed by whoever issues them. And sometimes those structured notes are actually backed by the FDIC as well on occasion. So there are just lots of ways that you can approach this that are different that most people don't know about. And they can usually get another couple of 3 percentage points if they'll just open themselves up to some other ideas that they might not have been exposed to.
That's right. And all kinds of options and ideas to weigh in on when it comes to saving and investing for retirement. And how much for now? And how much for the next 10 years? And how much for the next 30? So if you're thinking about that, it's time to start talking to you, Barry. They need to call you.
I hope they will. The number is 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. Or you can just text that number. If you text the word book, BOOK, we'll send you a book.
Right.
If you text the word visit, VISIT, we'll call you and set up a time for you and me to have a chat. So however you want to do it, you just reach out to us right now by picking up your phone and dialing 400-200-3500. Did you hear what I said? I said dialing. Oh, my goodness. I just played the old guy card, didn't I? If there's anybody young listening to this show, they don't even know what I was talking about. Well, so I guess you're going to pick up your phone and you're going to punch in 417-200-3500, and I'll be looking forward to talking with you.
Does anybody in Galena still have a rotary dial phone, Barry, to the best of your knowledge?
Lord, I've been gone from Galena for 43 years.
Yeah,
so I
haven't heard back from
what's
them
down there.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'd mentioned this before, Barry, but something nobody ever said when you were starting in this 31, 32 years ago, nobody ever said, I can't find my phone. That was just not a thing.
It was hanging in there on the wall at the end of that.
It was hanging on the wall.
It was easy to find your phone. That's true. Nobody ever said that
phone? In the 70s. Yeah. But, or if they have the Andy Griffith, the crank phone and talk to Sarah, get me Barry.
Well, anyway. I do go back to the days where we spoke our phone by using numbers. For example, in Galena, your phone number was EL7. And then 6119 or whatever.
Some kind of
my
a
number
word
when I grew up was EL78161. And so again, the young people today say EL7. What is he talking about? That old man? Well, that's the way we used to do it. Right after we sent smoke signals, then we would dial EL7. We didn't have all these fancy things you young people have got.
That's right. Well, I can spell out a word later, whatever word matches Barry's. I'll work on that in the commercial break during the news here, but don't make any big financial decisions without understanding what the full impact will be on all the other pieces of your retirement plan. So I'll say tap it in, 417-200-3500 with Barry. You'll learn more about the benefits of having a comprehensive retirement strategy and how to put one in place with help from the WealthCare Corporation, really solidifying your future. Barry, on to our next topic here, and there's so much excitement about starting a brand new phase of life with retirement. If you're relocating maybe to your dream retirement home in the Ozarks or elsewhere, downsizing to a smaller house or a condo, simply wanting to declutter for this new time of your life, retirement's a good time to do that, getting rid of all your stuff. And when it comes to confronting your possessions later in life, we've got a guy, retired Professor Dave Eckert. He wrote a book. His book is called Downsizing. And Eckert said accumulation is just a natural part of life. But sometime, Barry, our financial documents, all of our papers and stuff, it has to come out and go out. And a good place to start, all those piles of paper in your house. Barry, are you an old school guy and you like to see a lot of paper in your house?
Well, I don't necessarily like the paper cluttering up my house, but I am kind of a paper guy. In fact, my accountant was making fun of me. I was visiting with him over Zoom because the guy who actually does the accounting for our company is actually headquartered in Kansas City, and here we are in Springfield. So he sends me these big reports, and he noticed that instead of looking at them on the screen, I had printed them off, and so he was mocking me for that. So I suppose, yes, I'm kind of a paper sort of guy. It's just the way I think. I prefer a book to a Kindle. Now, my book is available on Kindle for those of you who read that way, and it's really inexpensive. Right. $2.95, I think, is the price of the Kindle. But at the end of the day, I buy books. I just bought a John Grisham book, getting ready to go on vacation. I bought a John Grisham book. Always, I try to keep John Grisham on hand, and I don't read his books until I go on vacation, and then I take that book with me. I've read everything he's ever written.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's a ton of books. A lot of them, those Mississippi law firm things. And with John Grisham.
I enjoy them. He's probably written 40 of them. I don't know.
40, I've read every
one of them. Yeah.
Turning the pages, page for Barry there. And remember to turn the pages of What's on Wealth, the book, which is out this summer as well. Are you a paper guy at the office? Do you like to go through a lot of documents for your clients at the office, by the way?
Well, we have to go through documents, and they bring us those documents in paper. We then scan those documents into the client file so we can see it online. But, paper just happens. We accumulate a lot of paper. In fact, I managed to go through one pile that had accumulated on my desk just this week and got it sorted down to the bare necessities. So the paper tiger wrestling match is an ongoing difficulty that we all experience, I think.
Well, and, it's good to see online on the screen on a spreadsheet. That's all nice. But we get the bills and we get the junk mail. By the way, Barry, the postal people, they hate that phrase, junk mail. I believe it's bulk rate delivery. Does that sound better to you? Bulk rate delivery. But it's
all
junk
the same
mail.
To me. Yeah.
And our financial statements. What is your role at the WealthCare Corporation in helping people around the Ozarks get all that paper together and those financial documents?
Well, the question is, what do you keep and what is it okay to throw away? And most people don't know the answer to that question. I'm just going to tell you this. I think that you should probably sign up for electronic statements from your investment accounts so that instead of receiving paper every month and every time there's a trade, you get multiple sheets of paper, just allow them to send you a notification electronically. I think that's perfectly a good thing to do. And it really saves the trees if you'll do that. And
I believe they call it, would you like to go paperless? They will give you that option. Yeah.
If you ever need that, we can always go back and click on it and print the paper. We've got access to all that stuff. So for the most part, you don't need to keep those things. Now, if you want to keep your annual statement at the end of the year so you can kind of see where you were from year to year, that might be okay to put those on file. But by and large, almost all of the paperwork that you're getting to deal with financial things is not something that you need to keep. It is all totally recoverable.
Well, and back to Barry's book. Our radio show is Watts on Wealth. Barry's brand new book is also called Watts on Wealth. If you like paperless on your reading, get it on the Kindle. It's not very much. Watts on Wealth, and type it in. I wonder if you could also type in Barry Watts, search by the author, or Watts on Wealth.
I don't know, but I'll have an answer for that question just shortly.
Yeah. And if you like the paper, Barry and I like both either way. If you like to turn those pages, if you like the paper and turning the pages of the book, Barry can send you the book for free. And Barry, what are the details of how do we get that free copy? We love free stuff.
Well, it's really simple, Ralph. All you've got to do is send us a text. Text the word book, B-O-O-K. Remember, B is for Barry. I'll figure out what the O-O-K part is. B-O-O-K. Text that to 417-200-3500. We'll put a copy of my book, Watts on Wealth, in the mail to you this month.
Yay. It's probably Barry, on Kindle. I like that one.
Yeah, folks, text Barry on Kindle.
Just remember it that way.
Text book to 417-200-3500.
And for your visit to the amazing WealthCare Corporation offices right there at Highway 65 and Battlefield Road in wonderful Springfield, Missouri. Time for the news, Barry. Time for a break, and we'll collect our thoughts and continue our conversation. We're talking about all that paper. How do you get rid of what you don't need? So we'll continue our conversation in just a moment. Don't go away.
Taxes. Can't live with them, can't live without them. But if you're looking for someone to help you pay as little taxes in retirement as possible, just give Barry Watts a call at the WealthCare Corporation at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500 to see what Barry Watts can do for you.
Welcome back in. Ralph Hipp with Barry Watts of the WealthCare Corporation. That number again for all your needs, all under one roof, 417-200-3500 in Springfield. We're talking about downsizing, getting rid of the stuff you don't need, especially those boxes of documents and junk mail and papers. How often, Barry, do people come to your office believing they have a financial strategy, but what they really have is that pile of statements or a shoebox full of account information? So, Barry, here's my stuff. I've got a plan. I've got a written plan.
Almost no one who comes to see us actually has a valid financial strategy in place. They may have some ideas, some notions. For example, I had some people come see me the other day, and they'd sold their house, and they put the money from their house into this particular investment account, and they were drawing out of that investment account income every month to make the payments on their new house. And when I told them we need to quit that and we need to replace that, they said, well, why would you do that? Because they were so enjoying getting those checks every month, but they had never bothered to look at the fact that in the past year, that account had lost $45,000 worth of principal.
Wow.
Because it was an account filled with bonds. And when interest rates go up, bonds go down in value. So they didn't know that they were losing money in that account. They were just enjoying getting the check. So they had a financial strategy, they thought, but not really. It was a terrible strategy. And so generally when people hear us either on the radio or watch our TV show on KY3 or watch our YouTube channel, What's on Wealth, they come in bringing a number of statements, but they really don't know what the strategy is or whether they have a strategy. And that's kind of why they come to see us. They want our strategic approach to retirement confidence, which we call the 6 steps to retirement confidence.
Now, Barry, I'll let you hit this out of the park. The 6 steps, what are the steps and what goes into that comprehensive retirement income strategy you can help us put together?
Well, the first 5 steps, and it's like climbing a staircase, Ralph. The step number 1 is income to age 100. We want to be sure that you're going to have enough income to be able to pay all your bills for the rest of your lifetime. The second step is taxes. We want to help you be in the 0% tax bracket so you're not paying any tax on Social Security, and so you're not paying any penalty tax on Medicare. The third step is protection of principal. We want you to protect your principal from stock market volatility. And if you'll think about those 2 steps, taxes and protection, sometimes we can do some things in there that will actually give you more income or stretch your income out and make it longer back on the first step. And so what we're trying to do is give you confidence in each of these steps. I'm paying the least amount of tax possible. I've protected my principal, so if the market goes down, I don't get hurt. And I've got income all the way to age 100. That's a pretty good place to be. And it allows you then to move to step number 4, addressing long-term care. Because one of the great dangers all of us face is going into long-term care and spending our life savings in a matter of just a few months. So you need a plan for how to deal with that. And for more than half of the people who come to see us, we're able to effect a plan that they don't have, that they didn't know was possible for them. And then finally, we look at estate planning, helping people get that all set up, put in order. Sometimes we send them out to various vendors or to various attorneys to get the problem solved, but we serve as the interface to the hub to talk about that, to understand what's going on, and help them make any selections that they may need to. So those were 5 steps, Ralph: income, taxes, protection, long-term care, estate planning. Now, we called it 6 steps, but we've only got 5. What's the problem? Here it is. The 6th step is once a year, we sit down together and we say, so do you have enough income to pay the bills? Are you needing any more income? Are you doing what you need to do? Oh, yes, I've got plenty of income. Oh, really? Are you saving some of your income back in the bank every month? Well, yeah, in fact, I am. My savings account's been growing. Okay, we're sending you too much money. So see, we adjust the income. Then we look at the tax return. How's the tax return doing? Are you paying more taxes than you ought to be? Did any surprises crop up? We look at all of these different 5 areas. I always like to say, when we look at the estate planning area, has your in-law become an outlaw? So you need to defund him. Well, we look at all those things and make the adjustments that we need to. That's what the 6th step is an annual review of the 5 steps to make sure that everything remains in order.
Barry and I are proud of the 3 out of the 10 of you, and that number might be high. 3 out of 10 of you have a written financial plan. 70% don't, Barry.
How's that applause? Can you hear me applauding?
Love it. We're both applauding. 30% of them have a plan, and people without a plan, they're sweating it out. They're wringing their hands. I don't know where I'm going here. How do you reassure them with your steps?
Ralph, this makes me kind of angry, but
How come?
I understand that we're complex people, human beings are. And we can only work with what we can work with. For example, I've got a client up in Wisconsin. I just talked to him yesterday, and he is my age. He's a little bit older than me, 61 already. He's going to retire at 65. He's got enough money to retire at 65. And when he dies, he'll still have something like $1.8 million left at age 100. But he makes a little over $300,000 a year, and he's afraid to retire because he's so addicted to that $300,000 check. So I said to him, well, you told me your sitting on the porch number was $10,000 a month. Is that true? And he said, yes, that's all I need is $10,000 a month. I said, well, based on what you have now, you can take $10,000 a month in income every month, and you will not run out of money in the rest of your lifetime. And it doesn't ease his face because he is not listening to the truth in the numbers. He's wrapped up in the emotions of having gotten up and gone to work every day for 40 plus years. And so the point is, there's no reason to worry. We try to help people just deal with things logically, but human beings are complicated, and sometimes they remain scared even after they have seen the truth. I just want to say to you, you don't have to be that guy. We've got a process for helping you create a retirement income strategy. We start with those 6 steps to retirement confidence. And so if you're listening right now and you don't have an income strategy, and statistics tell us that 70% of you at least don't, then I invite you to call so we can help you. We'll figure out how much income you need in retirement. We'll look at what the main risks are that pose a threat to your retirement, including things like inflation, stock market volatility, tax increases, healthcare costs. And we'll learn about the options to alleviate any of the concerns in any of those areas so that you can have a greater sense of confidence that your retirement's going to be okay, and so that you can know that you'll be able to maintain your current standard of living in retirement even as costs keep rising. It's complimentary for us to do this analysis. There's no obligation. And the reason there's no obligation is because we don't know for sure when you call us that we can help you until we sit down and talk with you. And so we just say, don't worry about it. Leave your checkbook at home, but come talk to us and let us help you figure it out. All we ask is this: be sure that you are someone who has at least $250,000 saved for retirement. Because if you don't have that minimal amount of money, our strategies won't work for you. Now, they work great when you're at $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million. Oh, awesome. But you've got to have at least $250,000 to start. And if that's you, here's what I would encourage you to do. Pick up your phone. You're not going to dial. You're going to punch. I learned that lesson a moment ago. You're going to punch in these numbers.
We've been over that. Yes. Right.
You're going to punch in 417-200-3500. 417-200-3500. And if you'll just call that number and say, I need to talk with Barry right now, today, you'll be leaving a message. My team will call you back first thing Monday morning. They'll get you scheduled on our calendar. We just freed up 3 extra days that were available that we didn't have when I started the day earlier this week.
Oh.
So we've got some time to have some conversations. This will be a great time to help you. We'll analyze where you're at. We'll map out a strategy to get you where you want to go. And we'll help you, because that's what we do at the WealthCare Corporation. We don't want you to outlive your money. Just call us at 417-200-3500. Say, I heard Barry on the radio and I need to talk to him.
Yes, it is 417-200-3500. A survey done recently says about 60% of baby boomers who are still working, they expect to keep on working when they retire. They plan to stay active and engaged, and good for them. And they plan to stay employed. I guess it's good for them, even after they retire from their careers, doing other things. Barry, for your clients all around Springfield, they want to keep on working, or like that guy you just talked about. What's their reasoning behind keeping a job and being retired?
Well, I just talked to one of our mutual friends this morning, Ralph, who's 84 years old, and he commented to me, he said, Barry, I failed at retirement twice. So he's still working, and I suspect he'll work till his dying day, unless he gets in some way where he can't. But he's pretty vital at 84. In fact, I told him how good he was compared to what Joe Biden looked like a few weeks ago.
I was thinking the same thing. Our mutual friend, and comparing him to Mr. Presidente there.
Yeah, in fact,
three years older. Yeah.
I'm just going to go ahead and share his name. His name's Billy Kentling. Those of you who are listening down in Christian County around Highlandville may know Bill Kentling, who's in his mid-80s. He hadn't been there a long time, but if you're an original person from the Ozarks, you might know him. And Bill's the one I was talking to this morning, and he is sharp as a tack at 84.
Yeah, he's great.
In fact, that's why I listen to him. I actually call Bill and say, hey, coach me, teach me things, tell me things I don't know, because even though I'm 60 and been doing this 31 years, there's more and more and more things I can learn. I'm always learning because I want to bring those resources to our clients. So why do people keep on working? I bet there's 100 reasons for 100 different people. But we know that even at age 75, about 10% of the population continues to work that long. And so there are a couple of reasons. First of all, better health just allows it. Secondly, people are living longer than they expected to, and that sort of requires it. And inflation requires it, because this doggone cost of living is out of control. And if we don't get our hands around that and strangle inflation, and hopefully we may have done that now or be on our way, then if we don't do stupid things like spend a whole bunch more of your tax dollars through government expenditures, well, then maybe inflation will stay tamed. But those are some of the reasons that people have to continue working in retirement.
This is Ralph Hipp along with J. Barry Watts, the main retirement designer of the WealthCare Corporation in Springfield. So don't go far. We'll be back with more of this. And Barry's number, as you're listening, punch it in, 200-3500, 417-200-3500. And we'll also get Social Security into the mix of when you're retiring and still working right after this.
Having trouble planning your retirement? Planning doesn't have to be complicated. Barry Watts can help you simplify it with his retirement toolkit. In it, you'll find a copy of his retirement income planning booklet, plus information on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your toolkit, text KIT, that's K-I-T, to 417-200-3500. That's KIT, K-I-T, to 417-200-3500.
According to the U.S. debt clock, in the time you hear this commercial, our nation's debt will go up by $1.5 million. That's more than $2 billion a day. Right now, our debt is over $31 trillion and climbing fast. The question is, how do we pay it off? One of the most likely answers is increasing taxes. Now think about your retirement accounts. Do you want to pay taxes on some of that money now when rates are historically low, or later when rates are potentially higher? Whether you should pay taxes now or in retirement depends on a lot of things. Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare know what to look for. Barry can help you create a plan so your retirement is as tax efficient as possible. Call 417-200-3500 to set up a tax strategy session with Barry Watts and the WealthCare team. That's 417-200-3500. When taxes go up, will you be ready? Call now, 417-200-3500.
Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
All right, back to more of our conversation, and we talked about retiring and working. For those of you who plan to keep on working after you retire from your career and your paycheck and whatever account you have there, and that's a majority, 60% or more are doing that. Barry, how can that impact things like their Social Security benefits or what they pay for Medicare?
Well, it's a really big deal, Ralph, and most people don't know how all this works. So first of all, there's something called FRA, that's full retirement age, and that's age 67. Now, if you're taking Social Security over age 67, then there's absolutely no tax impact from Social Security related to you continuing to work. But if you're under 67 and you make more than about $22,000 a year, well, then for every dollar you make more than that, Social Security is going to take back about 50%. 50 cents on every dollar. Now, there's another thing that comes into play here is if you continue to work and you earn more than $103,000 singly, you'll pay a penalty for your cost of Medicare. This is all in Chapter 2, page 23 of my book, Watts on Wealth. We'll send you a free copy if you'll just text the word book, B-O-O-K, to 417-200-3500. And we'll also unpack the other ways in which you pay taxes on Social Security and some strategies that if you will pay attention and implement, I would say about a third of our clients actually get to the 0% tax bracket, paying no tax on Social Security or any of their retirement income, despite the fact that some of them have millions of dollars.
How do you help people create a strategy for taking withdrawals out of their retirement accounts and doing it in the right order?
Well, this is kind of a comedy of errors here. It's amazing to me. People be storing up money in their tax-free account. That's usually their Roth account. And then when they retire, the first money they want to get their hands on is that tax-free money. No, stop, dummy. Get your hands off that account. That's the wrong thing for you to do. Taxes are the lowest right now that they've ever been. Let's save that tax-free money until later when taxes are higher, and let's spend out of the taxable account now, because if you wait and don't get that spent by the time you're 73, if you were born in the 50s, 75 if you were born in the 60s, the government's going to force you to take that money out, and you lose all control of the timing in which you take it out, the dollar amount you take out, or the tax rate. So don't spend the tax-free first. Now, I had a client who went back to a CPA who runs the financial end of the big company he works for. It's a very prominent company in Springfield and a very good one. And he explained to them that he wanted to start using the Roth component in their 401k plan. And this financial officer at this big corporation chastised him and told him he had that all wrong. Said, dummy, you don't want to do that. When you retire, you're going to have a lower tax bracket when you retire. And he knew better because I'd already demonstrated it wasn't true. So he left my office to go back and argue with the CPA at the major corporation. My point is this: that CPA is certified in public accounting and is very good at that. But she doesn't know beans from apple butter about taxes when it comes to strategizing to avoid tax. She's not a retirement planner. She simply got it wrong and proved her ignorance, even though she's the chief financial officer of a very major corporation. So which money should you take first? That's the question that really comes up when you start taking income. It's a big, complex problem, a math problem that requires what they call an algorithm. And I will guarantee you we didn't learn anything about algorithms when I was taking math class at the Galena High School in the 1970s. But that algorithm takes into account how your money is taxed, what each different account is earning, and then it creates the math that tells you which account to spend money from in each individual year. And sometimes from year to year, that changes.
Barry, there's something cool called tax harvesting. Is that basically what you're talking about, that concept of harvesting our taxes and picking which one we should get it out of?
No.
Or is that a different thing?
No, that's absolutely not what I'm talking about. That is not tax harvesting at all.
How is that different?
This is just simply being astute about which accounts you spend first. Looking at the next 30 years of your retirement life, what's the most efficient way for you to spend down? Tax harvesting usually is associated with losses where you've had a big year in terms of gains and maybe you got some big taxes embedded through capital gains, and we go through your accounts looking for losses that can offset those gains. And so that's something we do for most of our clients toward the end of the year. But that's not what I'm talking about. In this case, I'm just talking about how you make the decision about which account you take the money out of first.
Talk to us about working with somebody like you who helps us stay on top of the rules and avoid any mistakes, like when we have to do those RMDs.
Well, there are penalties for getting your RMDs wrong, and substantial penalties. You can wind up giving almost half of your money to the IRS. And so it's really, really important not to get it wrong. And, there are people masquerading as financial professionals all over the countryside. I told you about that CPA a moment ago who had messed it up for one of my clients. I just had another client who told me about somebody in South Dakota who was a financial advisor. And they had been listening to me, and they took the information they learned from me to their advisor in South Dakota. And they said, I think we probably want to do one of those Roth conversions. And their financial advisor in South Dakota said, well, he had heard of that, and he would look into it and see what he could find out about how to do it. Oh my goodness. That's a really bad answer from a non-professional masquerading as a professional. Folks, you need an expert. I don't care if it's us, but you need an expert, somebody who knows that they know what they're doing. They know both beans and apple butter. And they're able to bring to you expertise on not only investment, but tax strategy and income spending. They're able to design a plan for you based on the 6 steps of retirement confidence. And I'm proud to say at the WealthCare Corporation, we are that expert, and we want to serve people who want to be served by an expert.
That is it. And that number to get started with your 6 steps to retirement confidence with Barry, 417-200-3500 for your income to live to be 100, 417-200-3500, and take advantage of Barry Watts' expertise. You know, when you're in store for big changes when you retire, and avoiding any common mistakes can make your retirement years a lot better. Barry, for the last few minutes of our show, I want to roll out the list we have for the final part of our show, the list from LoveToKnow.com, some of the things not to do when we retire. And first of all, obviously, this isn't directly related to any financial plan, but there's some certain parallels to it. Can you talk about how having a plan for how you're going to spend your time is just as important as having a plan for how you will spend your money?
Well, I had a client in the other day who answered that question for us. He talked about what he coached other people he worked with before he retired to know and do. And he said the most important thing is to know what you're going to do the day after you retire. When are you going to get up, and what are you going to put your shoes on, take your shower? What are you going to go do? He said, you're not ready to retire until you know what you're going to go do. Now, he is spending a lot of time growing a big garden and keeping the yard mowed at the church that he attends and things of that nature. But my point is, know what you're going to do, because when you retire without a plan, you tend to become a couch potato and you die a lot earlier.
There you go. And don't neglect that estate planning. You don't want your family weighed down with any decisions, so take care of that end-of-life planning right now as well.
Well, Ralph, there's a process called the Peace of Mind Planner. That's what we call it here. It helps people to help their children to know what to do when mom and dad die. I mean, if your children walked in and found you dead today, what would you want them to do? Where's the will that tells what's going to happen with your assets? Is there a trust? Where is the trust? Who's in charge now that you're gone? What would you want them to do with the house? Maybe you live on a farm. It's been in the family 100 years. Do they know to keep the farm and not sell it because that's what you wanted done? And if they are going to keep it, do they have the financial resources to keep it and support it? Who do you want called? What friends do you want to know? Where do you want to have your services? Do you want a funeral service? Who do you want to speak at it? What song are you going to sing? I mean, these are just important things that you ought to write down. You ought to be committed to. And we've got a process called the Peace of Mind Planner. And if you'd like that, well, come see us at the WealthCare Corporation. We'll make that available to you. It's just a little tool to help you gather information. It asks the right questions to give the right answers to people when you're gone, so they'll know what you want them to do for you.
Barry, I know there are all kinds of opportunities out there to stay busy in Springfield, including your church. There's a world of ways to help other people as part of your faith journey and your journey in retirement, too.
Well, I think that's tremendously important, Ralph. I just can't overemphasize it. Pickleball is so popular these days. I think that's kind of humorous. You got people who've never been athletes that are playing pickleball. By the way, we have a world pickleball champion as one of our clients. I don't know how you get to be that, but he beat everybody else in the pickleball contest, I guess. Maybe you're going to be a walker. You got to have the right shoes. Get them bought before you retire. Maybe you're going to take up biking or return to biking or quilting, or I'm kind of interested in woodworking myself. I've got a shop I've been wanting to build forever, and I haven't gotten it built, and I don't know when I'm going to get that done, but sometime before I retire, I'm going to have a wood shop. And so you have to be aware of these things. Ralph, about 45% of people over the age of 65 are divorced, separated, or widowed. So that's half of them living lonely. And I think you better find ways to connect to other people, because we know that you live longer if you are connected socially and emotionally. And my suggestion is that your Southwest Missouri church could be a great big help on that front. So I would suggest that you hop out of that chair as soon as this show's over, get your shower taken, put on your clothes, and go to the church of your choice. Today'd be a good day to start that.
It'd be the perfect day this Sunday morning. Barry and I have loved being with you, friends, this Sunday morning. And just a final thought, Barry, as we wrap up this week's show, what are some of the things you do at the WealthCare Corporation helping connect people in the Ozarks together?
We do try to help our clients become friends and get to know one another. A couple of Thursdays ago, we took about 170 clients out to the Springfield Cardinals for a ball game. They got to have dinner together and talk with each other. We've taken people over to Olga. I bet a lot of you don't know Olga and where it's at, but if you go to Seymour and turn right, Fordland and turn right, off down there in the hills, you'll find the Kindle store at Olga. And we took a load of clients to a French dinner at the Kindle store. A couple of years ago, we loaded 2 bus loads and took them to Yakov Smirnoff in Branson and toured College of the Ozarks while we were there. At Christmas and Thanksgiving, we have parties and gather them around. So those are just some of the things that we do to help our clients get acquainted.
So get together with Barry, and hopefully from there you can get together with all kinds of great people around the Ozarks and get your retirement plan together at the same time. And that number is 417-200-3500 to reach out to Barry right away. By the way, in Olga, that Kindle store is Kindal. You probably know, not the Kindle store where you buy a Kindle to read Barry's book, is it? No, not that kind of a Kindle. It's the Kindal. But get the book on Kindle. And Barry, 417-200-3500. When we call the number, we can also get your book that way.
You absolutely can. If you'll just text that number, text the word book to 417-200-3500. We'll send you a copy in the mail this week.
All right. And Barry and I will get together again, hopefully with you next Sunday morning right here on Talk 104. For everybody at the WealthCare Corporation, this is Ralph Hipp. And Barry, goodbye for now, and we'll see you soon, bud.
Adios, Ralph. Thanks. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for stopping by Watts on Wealth. If you would like Barry and his team to help you make a plan to get to and through retirement, or would simply like a second opinion on your current plan, give us a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. And join us again next week for Watts on Wealth.
WealthCare Corporation provides tax strategy, tax compliance, accounting, and insurance services through its affiliate American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance never guarantees future results. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as the basis for personal financial decisions without first consulting a qualified advisor. The information and opinions you've heard are believed reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness.